Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this panel discussion entitled Bridging the Gap, Advancing Women's Careers in Academia and Beyond, co-organized by the Academia Europaea Budapest and Wrocław hubs. My name is Katalin Solymosi, and I am the Vice Director of the Academia Europaea Budapest hub, and I will be moderating the event today. Before we begin, I need to tell you a few housekeeping notes. These are the general rules for any Zoom meetings, so please turn off your cameras and mute yourself during the speeches and the panel discussion. If you have any questions, then please feel free to type them into the chat function of Zoom, and I will bring them up at the Q&A session, which will follow our panel discussion. Also, please note that the event is recorded and it will be made available later on the YouTube channel of the Academia Europaea Budapest hub. I was asked to first provide a brief outline of the event. With the same, I have prepared few slides. So based on and some data. So based on the latest key figures data released this year and containing data from 2024, you can see that there is a huge difference in the proportion of female scientists and researchers and engineers within Europe. Poland and most EU 13 countries belong to those having the highest number or the highest proportion of women in science, almost reaching equality like Spain or Denmark. Hungary, on the other side, is having the lowest proportion of women in science, and Austria and the Czech Republic are somewhere in between. In addition to these geographical differences in the number or proportion of women in science, it is also quite evident that all across the globe, the so-called scissors effect happens in academia, which means that women are represented in equal or even higher numbers at the bachelor, master, or even the PhD levels. But later on, at later stages of the academic career path, their number very strongly declines with the progression of the academic careers. That means that even if they do not quit completely academia but remain, they face phenomena like the so-called sticky floor that refers to the fact that many women remain in positions which are less prestigious, less well-paid, and only very few of them succeed to break the glass ceiling and reach to higher positions like professorship or academy membership. I could have brought here maybe newer or different figure than the one I have here below, but unfortunately, if we check or if you go and check these latest key figures data, you will see that only very slowly and very mild or small changes are observed in this field. So still now, and in spite of some progress in some of the countries, the number of female professors is close to 20%, and the changes are relatively slow. So this is what we see, and this is why these problems were evident, and this is why we decided to talk about these issues today with our prestigious invited speakers and panelists. Our first speaker will be Dorota, Kołodziejczyk, a literature scholar from the Wrocław University, who is chair of the Olga Tokarczuk X Center. She will present the personal and policy perspective from Poland. She will be followed by our second speaker, Erika Bálint, the newly elected chair or president of the Hungarian Association of Women in Science, and a chemical engineer from the Budapest University of Technology and Economics. We will present as best practice the functioning and activities of the association and how it is helping the promotion of STEM careers among secondary school students, especially girls. The two speeches will be followed by a panel session where our two speakers will be joined by 3 members of Academia Europaea from the region. I will present them a little bit more in detail when we will move to that point in our program. The panel discussion will be then followed by the Q&A session, and then some closing remarks and thoughts will be followed by my part. With this, I would like now to hand over the word to our first speaker, Dorota Kołodziejczyk. Dorota, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Katalin. Thank you very much. Just a small correction. I am no longer the chair of Olga Tokarczuk's X Center. I was the chair for 3 years, or 3.5 perhaps. Okay, so just a few thoughts. I have not prepared any presentation because I thought, okay, I'm not a specialist in, let's say, this kind of sociology of science, would not feel competent. I'll just share a few observations and my own experience a little bit, because I think this experience is telling or I can contribute something with this. First of all, I think that it's very difficult to talk about what we consider personal issues that affect professional career as women and mothers, because they may be personal in a way that can be talked about only if those issues become general. Yeah, so we actually talk about our experience as women, and each experience is unique, and sometimes quite difficult to grasp. Quite difficult to grasp, because my experience is that being a woman in academia is quite an ambiguous affair sometimes. Yeah, because on the one hand, I think that we do have, in general, very good conditions for development in very many ways, because the university as an employer and as a research place is very much aware of gender issues, yeah, in the workplace and in research. So on the one hand, there is this kind of felt awareness that there has been a history of inequality, and that there is this situation of perhaps unequal chances still lingering in some areas. Yeah. On the other hand, I think sometimes, and I think each woman at the university or research institution has experienced something that she would feel as gender bias, but she would not necessarily be able to really as if address it as an institutional clear problem, because some of those situations or cases or events are not really palpable. Okay, so what I want to say is that I think at the university and in research institutions, which are very much aware of gender issues as such, yeah, we still experience gender inequality, but it may not be very easy to grasp the essence of those issues, or the reasons for them, or the source. That's why it's necessary to talk about institutions and solutions, etc. So in Poland, for example, the university as employer follows work law, which gives women maternity leaves, fully paid doctoral leaves during pregnancy, a possibility of a 3-year leave to care for a small kid. It's not paid, but and mostly it's not taken up by women in academia, but it's an option. And this leave is extended to 6 years in case of a child with a disability. And you can take a few months of this leave if you want. You don't have to take, because it's not maternity leave. Yeah, you don't have to, and it's unpaid. And in case mothers can also take sick leaves with 80% payment, and so on. So the university follows strictly this work law. And I think the work law is pretty fair. But we do have this phenomenon that women taking care of children statistically do fall back with their professorships, high levels of careers, yeah? And this is subject to much scrutiny now in Poland. What I want to say, and what I think is like important in my own experience, is what happens, because all the time we talk about how to make things easier for women, which is necessary. For example, I wouldn't call it a bias, but there is a certain gender bend in most schemes like scholarships, research grants, etc. Because, like, in general, they work very well for persons who do not have young children under their care or any like dependents, kind of people needing care. Yeah. For example, some scholarships like the Fulbright, they have fixed time lines, and if you're a mother of a young child or children, it may be not easy for you to leave for like 5 months, yeah, and it may not, or because it's too long, and it may be too short to go with your children if you can afford it, yeah. For example, so I think some of the programs should be more flexible, with the possibility of choosing, for example, certain periods to stay on scholarships, library queries, etc. But this aside, very little, I think, is being talked about women in academia taking care of children with disabilities. And I am such a mother taking care of a child with a severe disability, and there are many of us. And I think the question for us is not really how to make things easier for us, but how to make things possible in the first place. Because we are existing, I think, as caregivers of a child that needs 24/7 care. Yeah. We have this kind of, within the research context, academia context, we are on the edge of surviving in the system. We do have some rights, which sometimes are talked about as privileges. As I said, in the Polish work law, it's the possibility of taking unpaid leaves for 6 years after the child is born. Thus, to have this kind of break from work, which I did not take up. Yeah, and also we're entitled to sick leaves for children until they are 18. Normally, it's until the child is 14. Otherwise, like, my son is grown up now, and I do not have any such rights, which is the first thing. And the second thing is that we have to finance our work in the sense that we have to pay for professional care. For any time that the child is not at school, sometimes the parents cannot really share the care like 50-50. Sometimes they're single mothers or single fathers, because here, but we're talking about mothers here. So the point is that we always have to have this care in our planning for whatever we are planning to do, like planning a project, applying for grants, and so on. We have to include it into our horizon of possibility, which is fair enough. I wouldn't complain about this, but I think we, as mothers with children with severe disability, do not have anything from the institution that we would call some kind of help and maybe even understanding in this sense. So I would like now to perhaps listen to other speakers, what solutions they are talking about, and we can later think about the specific case of giving care to a person, children with disabilities for women in academia, and perhaps how to propose some solutions. I think sometimes like a little bit of solidarity in the teaching process, for example, would help. All those things are like very difficult to program and to write down as rules, because we're talking about imponderabilia, I think, mostly. Yeah. Okay, so this is from me as just, I think this is something that should be talked about, because our university, for example, has all those programs for social programs also for for parents with kids, yeah, trips, I don't know, workshops, etc., etc. I've never seen anything for parents who may have children with disabilities. Yeah? So we are always this margin, this kind of tiny minority that falls in the cracks of the system. Okay, so perhaps I'll finish with this for the moment.
Thank you very much, Dorota, for sharing these highly personal and very important points and discussing them with us. I'm sure in the panel we can come back to this, but I totally agree that that's a very peculiar situation, and those who are in this position have really would really need special attention and measures to help them to go along their career path and yeah, work towards that one. So then for the sake of the time, we will then first have our second speaker, Erika, who will share her who will share her screen, if I may ask you, Erika, and then present some thought about a completely different initiative, which is mostly aiming at how to attract young girls, secondary school students towards academic career path. It's the Hungarian Association of Women in Science. Okay, the floor is yours, Erika.
Thank you so much. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank this really great opportunity and also the kind invitation to Katalin to talk about the Association of Hungarian Women in Science. Before I start, I just took to you really great quote from Malala Yousafzai, which is, you can see, read that every girl deserves to take part in creating the technology that will change our world and change who runs it. So the Association of the Hungarian Women in Science has a kind of motto of this quote. Before I start, I just wanted to really shortly introduce myself and what is my connection to the Association of Hungarian Women in Science. So as Katalin introduced me in the beginning of this program today, I'm a chemical engineer and recently working as an associate professor at the Budapest University of Technology and Economics at the Faculty of Chemical Technology and Biotechnology. I received my PhD in 2013 and then became a research associate professor, and now I'm working as an associate professor. I have 2 daughters, so during that time I had 2 times a maternity leave for altogether 3.5 years. And now I am also head of a research group where there are 25 members. And I also wanted to highlight that I am a founding member of the Hungarian Young Academy. So I'm also really motivated to motivate the younger generation to be a scientist and work on as a research and make a research career. And my connection with the association is that in 2019, and I was awarded by a Women in Science Excellence Award in chemistry category. And then from this time, I became a member of this association. And in this year, especially in this month, I had the honor of being newly elected president of this association. So just a short overview of our organization. So the main aim, the main target of the Association of Hungarian Women in Science is to try to find a way or trying to find a world where everybody is equal. So there are equal opportunities in science and innovation for girls and for boys. And especially this association was established in 2008 by only 10 female researchers. And later, according to the program of this association, the Nature awarded this association. So it means that I hope that you will also see that there are many programs that we are trying to work on and motivate younger girls to choose a STEM career. The most important things of NATE is the dedicating to empowering girls to become successful and self-confident to choose STEM careers. So we actively work on teachers, schools, primary, secondary schools, and also media members, and try to find a way to motivate this younger generation. And here is a typical example that nowadays, most of the girls in the age of 13, 14, they have a lot of ideas to work on. They have hobbies. They are started to interested in many types of the fields of the life. But the most important things that they are lack of self-confidence. And that is why that our main focus is on that age of girls to try to find the motivation of them and show them that how can they choose STEM careers, show them role models, show them programs, and try to find a way that how could we motivate them to have much more self-confidence. According to research by Microsoft in 2017, there was says that what can motivate girls to choose STEM careers, and it was found that there are 5 main parts of 5 main subjects to motivate this younger generation. One is that showing them women role models, showing them research women who are successful, who could show that they have a great career and how could they manage their career during maternity leave and during, of course, there are sometimes not easy parts of the research life. However, it's also important to show them that how could the research women solve these problems. And also important to show them practical experiences. Also real life situation is important to show them that how it's work being a researcher. And also important is the teacher's encouragement and trust in equality. And according to these main aims or main subjects, what we can do. So just very shortly, so the main goal of the Association of Hungarian Women in Science is that try to motivate the younger people, try to give them more confidently by many type of programs, which I would like to show you in the next few slides. But before that, I just wanted to show you our results that during almost 20 years, we have more than 20,000 participants inspired towards STEM field. So it means that it's more than 20,000 girls joined to one of our programs. And also we have a great cooperation with various companies in Hungary and also international companies. And also we have more than 600,000 inspiring role models at host companies and research institutes. And we have a special programs which called Girls' Day. And nowadays we have more than 40 cities in Hungary where we could have this Girls' Day program. And also we had more than 1,500,000 volunteers. And also, which is really important, that we are also working together with primary and secondary school teachers. So during that almost 20 years, more than 800 teachers are connected with us directly during our programs. And here you can see our targeted groups. So the main focus of us is the age of 12 and 18, so the upper elementary school and high school students, high school girls. And also we have other target groups, which is the university students, university girls. And also we have programs for, or also awards for PhD students and researchers and teachers. And also we are also working together with parents, because we believe that if we show great examples for the parents is really important for us to motivate their children to choose STEM careers. So one of the most important program of ours is the Girls' Day, which is an interactive open day program for high school girls. It looks like that many types of companies and universities and research institutes join to this program. And usually this program is during the spring. It's a one-day program, usually Thursday or Friday. And those secondary students who's joined to this program, they could get a free day from the school. And it looks like that they can choose companies, research institutes, universities, which they would like to visit, and which they would like to know more about, for example, engineering jobs, or would like to know more about the field of the companies or institutes. And they can spend there one day and see experiments. They can talk with the employees of the companies and institutes. They can have real experiences how the concrete jobs are going. It's a very successful program nowadays in Hungary. The other important program is a shadowing days, which looks like that companies can, or research institutes can join to this program. And in that case, not so many girls could join. It depends on that how many companies could offer opportunities to go in, for example, a one day or few days program. It looks like shadow means that the girls could join to a company or a research institute and work together concretely a few days as a shadow with the researchers, and they can have more experience in that how it goes, that kind of works, and they can decide after that they are interested in, or they want to do or want to choose another type of STEM career. So it's a really great opportunity, and it's also really important that it's a really fantastic thing that more and more companies by year are interested in to join to this program, and which is really important because it means that year by year more and more girls can join to these shadowing days. We have also career orientation summer camps in each summer, which mainly is a kind of fun and interactive program. And the main importance of this program is to build self-confidence of the girls. So there are many workshops, there are interactive games, problem-solving practice, examining general family models, attitudes, and also during these camps, research women, successful women are invited, and the girls can talk personally with these successful women, and they can be much more motivated after. There are another program which called Talent Development Program. It's usually every month or quarterly, going in a year, and usually they are willing to serve as role models among their peers. So develop soft skills, including how they can prepare scientific presentation, or what can they do if they have a possibility to appearance in the media, and also they could expand their technological knowledge, and there is also a possibility to visit companies for a short period of time. Another important program, it's called mentoring programs for high school girls. So it's usually it's a 4-semester long special course focusing especially on mathematics and IT, so computer sciences. And this course is consisted for 4 modules, engaging girls with mathematics and IT, improvement of STEM knowledge, focusing on mathematics and computer science, improvement of soft skills, and also the 4th module is the mentoring, group mentoring with the participation of volunteers of technological companies. And it's also very successful. The name of this program, the short name is called Smarties. And another important thing is the researcher night. In every September, the last Friday in Hungary is a researcher night. And the Association of Hungarian Women in Science is also very active to be part on this researcher night. And we also created many type of programs, and it looks like that on different fields of STEM there are kind of stands with different type of experiments, and any age of visitors can come in and see the experiments and talk about the research work with the researchers. And especially here you can see 2 of my daughters. They are also attend on these researcher nights in year by year with me, and they are also really motivated to work on the experiments and show also the chemical experiments for the visitors. And I'm really happy that they are really open it, and they are really happy to join to me with in this program. And regarding the older generation, the age between 30 and 40, the Association of Hungarian Women in Science has a special award, which means Women in Science and Technology Award of Excellence. And especially this award was the main point when I met with this association and started to work together. And especially in each year, there is annuance to this award in each year in different categories, like 1 year in chemistry or physics, other year in mathematics or biology or computer science. So in each year there are different topics where the research women can apply, and 2 or 3 research women are selected to get this award of excellence. And the last couple of years, we have also a new category, which is the award of the technician. Those technician women who works a lot during the laboratory experiments, for example, for the research women, so they are also awarded. And in this year, we have the first year when we have also an award for secondary school teachers. And especially those teachers got award who were really work on that motivated the young girls to be part, for example, on the girls' days or to take part on our programs. And those teachers were also awarded. Because we think that it's really important that, okay, that we have this kind of programs, but it's also important that during the school days, the teacher's role is important to show them that how beautiful is the science, the STEM subjects. So they have a special role in the life of the young girls. And due to this, we have also Teachers' Day, where the teachers can join a special program, and we try to take together teachers from Budapest schools and also from outside of Budapest, and the teachers can meet each other, can talk about their programs, and they can share each other with good programs and also good experiences. And also we try to provide guidance for them to how they can guide for the parents regarding their children career choice. So it's a kind of workshop in each year. And here I just wanted to show you that during it's almost 20 years, we have cooperation with many type of Hungarian and international companies, and also universities and research institutes, which really important to have our program. So if they will not have us, it will be much more difficult. So we are really acknowledge their effort. And finally, I would like to thank you for your kind attention, and I would like to tell you that we are really open for any collaboration and giving ideas about our experiences if you are interested. So here you can find our email address and webpage address. So please feel free to ask us if you have any question and if you would like to collaborate with us. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Erika, for this highly inspirational talk. And I must confess that we know each other from the Hungarian Young Academy, where we were both founding members, and we worked together also about how to improve the situation of early to mid-career researchers in Hungary. And I also know the work of this association, and so I was not surprised, but I think that it's a very good example in how to mentor and how to attract younger generations, and especially girls, towards the academic career. So after these thoughts, if anyone has questions, I would like to ask you to put them in the chat function of the Zoom, and we will come back to this later. And now we will move to our panel discussion. So first, let me introduce the panel, because maybe I will share my screen again, because maybe that's easier to show the panel members. So in addition to our two speakers, so Dorota and Erika, our panel will be joined by 3 Academia Europa members, as I mentioned before. Elzbieta Frackowiak is a former vice president of the Polish Academy of Sciences, who is a chemist working at the Poznan University of Technology. László Kollár is the Secretary General of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, who has a background in civil engineer, and he also works at the Budapest University of Technology and Economics. Last but not least, we are also greatly honored to have among us Verena Vinivarter from the Austrian Academy of Sciences. She is also a chemical engineer, but who later also studied history, and now she is widely recognized for her work in environmental history and interdisciplinary studies related to climate change, environment, and historical topics related to this. Before we move towards our detailed discussion with the panel and some questions, I would like to ask Elzbieta, László, and Verena to briefly introduce themselves, or if they have anything to add or comment on the presentations, or some reflections or talks of the two speeches, or if they want to share simply their relation or position to the topic, that would be nice. So any of you, just unmute yourself, and maybe, yeah, I will stop sharing the screen, and then we could continue the discussion.
Verena, you are starting, or I should start?
Yes, yeah.
So I can?
Elzbieta, you can start.
My name is Elzbieta Frackowiak. I am from Poznan University of Technology. So my career is very, very long, because I am already, over 50 years of scientific work. So, but it is my passion. It's the reason why I am still interested in science. What is my background? I am electrochemist, but electrochemist, but without any special application has no sense. So I am interested by application of different carbon materials for energy storage and conversion. So electrochemical capacitor, they are called supercapacitor, lithium-ion batteries. All this section, which is very, very interesting for energy storage. It is very actual topic. Of course, after maybe it will be some about personal experience, I will tell more. But maybe what are my background? So after chemistry, finally, my dream was English language, some English philology. But finally, I finished with chemistry, and now after with electrochemistry. So finally, with the step of my career, I will maybe tell a little bit after how it goes finally. But at the end, I will finish that my long-term career is finally finished, that I am great-grandmother, but I am still at work. So you see, it is possible to have patience and to have very small baby, as having one just as a small great-granddaughter, correctly. So, but finally, there are not so many persons. Sometimes it is thought that you can have a award because you are working very long. After 50 years, you cannot have any award because you are too old to work still. So it is just my case. I am a little bit joking. Okay. So very small introduction about me.
Okay,
thank you very much, Elzbieta, and I'm glad that we meet here again. We met in
yes.
Wrocław,
Yes.
and you were very kind in recognizing the importance of what I gave as a presentation there. I have been the chair of the Women's Committee of the Austrian Academy of Sciences for a while now, and I was even longer than that. I'm a member of the Women's Committee, and it's very interesting about the Austrian Academy of Sciences that we have many committees which are recognized in our statutes, but the Women's Committee is still completely informal, because there is a very large majority of elderly representatives of the male gender who do not want to change the statutes to include a female members committee. When I announced once, this is anecdotal, once I announced that the female committee would meet, and I announced this in the General Assembly, one of the elderly gentlemen walked up to me and said he thinks it is not a good idea that the women meet. because then the men could also meet. And I said, well, you can, and actually you have for about 3,000 years met without us. And I think it's time that we can also meet without you. So, and if you think that Austria, I mean, we share the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and I think that there is still a lot of backwardness in both our systems. And as this chair of the Women's Committee, I'm also tasked with talking to the academy at times about gender bias and about the role and situation of women in science in general. And Katalin was kind enough to prepare us with a few questions, and I would like to speak to the second question that she proposed, which is what the systemic problems are when it comes to a joint or a gender equal opportunity world. I would like to say 2 or 3 words about Dorota's very moving story. I think what we would not expect the father of a disabled son to speak about his involvement in the upbringing and care of this disabled person, because we still find it totally normal that it is the mother doing it. And I think as long as this is the normal, we are on the wrong track. And you have very movingly said, well, it's not about privilege, it's about justice. But I think that the whole story that women can take this leave, and that is such a good thing. I mean, humans who are parents should be able to take this leave. And it should be normalized that as many men take sick leave for their kids than women do. And as many men are involved in care as are women. And the one thing that I can add, which is almost as invisible as taking care of disabled children in an academic career, is that more and more of us are also taking care of sick parents and grandparents. And I had a PhD student who had to take care of her sick grandmother for many years, which was a big strain on this person. And I'm now personally in the situation that I take care of 2 elderly female relatives of my husband, together with my husband, but it's also care that is invisible. And I think this end of life care is even more invisible, and due to demographic change, this is going to be more and more important in the future. So that's kind of a haphazard introduction, and I beg your pardon for that, but I'll be happy to talk a little bit about the systemic question later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Verena, for sharing all these thoughts with us. And so now I would like to give the word to László to comment if he has any thoughts.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I am, as far as I see, the only male in this group, including the participants as well. So it's a little bit awkward to be in a company like that. I am, as Katalin said, I am the Secretary General of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, and as such, I have a double role here. The Academy is a learned society, as most of the academies, but another important issue that the Academy is also a research funding agency. We are not the major research funding agency in Hungary, but we have very important programs what we run. And probably I would like to share with you an experience regarding the Academy. 9 years, we have every 3 years we choose the new academicians, and 9 years ago it became quite disastrous, because after the selection of the members, it turned out that none of the new members were women. And it just happened this way. There are 11 sections, and each section did their own choice. And at the end, we ended up that we were like 30 plus males in the chosen members. So it was disastrous, really. So because the end result was disastrous. So actually, one of the academicians, a male, stand up and said, that's something what we cannot tolerate, so we must do something. And then 9 years ago, the president established a committee to investigate the situation. And they were, in the committee, there were only women academicians, as far as I remember. And they come up with several recommendations. And I think that the most important result was not, there were some very useful recommendations, but the most important thing was that everybody was aware of the problem and everybody was open to look around, because I think that in many cases, the real problem is not gender biased, or it's some kind of a gender bias, but if we ask male to nominate somebody, he will think about males only. They don't think about women, and that's a problem. If they don't aware that it should be more open. So after these recommendations, 3 years later, we had, I think 9 out of the 30 plus new members were women, and this year it's a little bit less, we have only 5. But I think that shows that it's a very important issue to monitor what's going on, and after monitoring, if we are aware of the problem, then we can solve certain things. It's also, I think, very essential that the committee said that we have no compromise on quality. So we don't choose anybody because the quality, if the quality is not very, very high. But we have to open for new members who are not male, but also female. And coming to the first question, what you raised in the panel, this is what are the most important personal issues. I think that the most important thing is really mentality. So the mentality of male to aware of the problem, but also the mentality of women. And let me share you one example, which is not a statistics, it's my experience, and it just came to my mind when I was thinking about this panel. I used to work in the US, and I had several PhD students. I co-chaired these PhD students in the US, so I had 3 female PhD students in the US, and altogether among the about 10 PhD students in Hungary, I had 3 women as well. And there was a tremendous difference in the attitude of the women. The American PhD students were extremely self-confident. They felt they can do anything. So if I gave you anything to do, they thought they are capable of doing it. It's not a statistics, but 2 out of the 3 Hungarian PhD students who were very smart, extremely good, they had problems with self-confidence. They always say, it might be too difficult, we might not be able to do it. So it was extremely important to encourage them that they are capable, they are good, they are better than the others. So go ahead. I think it's very common with those things, what Erika said about their programs. I think it's enough for now.
Thank you very much. And I also agree that it really reflects nicely on what Erika emphasized about increasing the self-confidence of girls and women. Are there any comments maybe on this, Dorota?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the great presentations, Erika, about this confidence raising from very early age is very important because on the one hand, girls, I think, statistically, how to say that? There is like statistics in Poland, for example, that girls do very well at school, also in hard sciences, STEM, etc. They perform in mathematics and physics and chemistry and so on. They do take up not maybe massively, but engineering studies and hard science studies without much of a problem. But they lose this confidence on the way somehow, right? As adults. And I think this consciousness building and confidence building is very important. And maybe we should think as, let's say, academics with, like in my case, a long history of working, yeah, to actually develop such programs because they're very necessary, with trainings perhaps, and so on. Now, a few things about the change of mentality. The change of mentality has been going on in academia and around, and in the societies, etc., for a long time. In academia, very importantly, very importantly so. For example, in various studies, why women underperform at some stage of their careers, where we cannot talk about their lack of talent or dedication or knowledge, but we can talk about perhaps the overwhelming commitment. There is also something else, I think. It's because it concerns also women who do not have children. Yeah, so it's not about mothers who are, so busy, etc. And this is why, but also women in general. We are, as women, socialized to as if to work horizontally, transversely, also to avoid hierarchies. And for us, for example, like we are not encouraged by the institution to go for professorships, in the sense that whenever there is something we have to apply for, even if we sometimes have enough arguments for this application, we don't do it because first we think we're not good enough yet, maybe something more should be accrued to this work that we have to present for a higher position, for the title, etc. So all these issues also come into the picture. I think how we are being socialized as girls, never to as if articulate our ambitions too much, yeah. And I think academia is structured for very ambitious people who actually know how to apply, how to claim their position. Claiming, I think, is a problem with women in general. They don't need to be shy. They don't need to be self-effacing, but they may have difficulties, we as women, to claim positions. I think this is one thing. Solidarity also between women is another issue to discuss. And I would like to refer to Verena's statement about the equality between parents, it doesn't concern disability only, but also all kids. I think there is an assumption, maybe it's statistical, I don't know, that parents can share equally. Sometimes they cannot simply for various reasons, professional reasons mostly. There are limitations on both sides, kind of. And if you have two parents within academia, I think there as if time flexibility is a bit broader. But I have not been talking about a specific difficulty of mothers with children with disability as being left alone and not sharing. I was talking about them in relation to the institution, which is quite another problem, simply because we cannot be asked by our institution, okay, so where's the dad, who will help you? It's not this kind of question, it's the question about how we, as women with, on this margin, kind of, can also have equal opportunities, without really claiming huge privileges, kind of. So this was my my question. But I think this consciousness raising and confidence building is very important, because a few years ago when I was at this kind of meeting of Academia Europea Knowledge Hub in Wrocław, the prolongation of the cooperation with the city, we were a bit facetious about the fact that there were only men in the room with two women. Myself, I was not a member then, and another woman, and that was it. So this is something that Laszlo, I think, was talking about. And there are women in science, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Elzbieta?
So maybe a little bit thoughts about lectures which were before. I was really very much moved by Dorota case, but I don't see so much, not so easy simply to have some help from institution. Yes, it's really a very special, difficult case. I was impressed by Erika lecture. I like very much your shadowing days, it is very nice to have such kind of possibility to see, because in our university, for example, we are doing days for Polytechnica, for technical university. It is very successful. We are doing also this research night. It's very, very nice invention as well. And for example, my PhD student is very much active for all of these actions, because she's very much self-confident. Contrary to me, I was never nominated. What Laszlo told, that must be some nomination. I was never thinking of nominate myself. Luckily, for everything, someone was proposing my candidate. Simply, I was never able to be. I was not self-confident. I was never thinking that I'm enough good. But for example, for to be chair of division for electrochemical energy storage and conversion, simply Marina Mastragostino, seeing why I want to tell it, because sometimes in my case, for example, there was some kind of fortunate event that I meet someone, and sometimes it helps very much. We are meeting someone, sitting during conference, and she's telling, I think that maybe after your lecture, you could be chair of division in International Society of Electrochemistry. I could not imagine, okay, if she proposed me, I agree. And I was selected in the international voting. So it was very, 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 the most maybe important success in my life. After, another member of Academy of Science proposed me, oh, you received Polish Nobel Prize, so maybe you could be Academy member. I could never imagine that I could be member of Academy of Sciences. So and one guy told me, if you will be selected third time after third trial, maybe you will succeed. I was selected in the first trial, and after became vice president even of this academy. So how it is situation in our Academy of Sciences? I was the first one during 50 years of academy in Poland. I was the first one selected in technical sciences. One lady during 50 years, there was nobody else, any other lady. It was such situation. So at this time, totally was 3% of women. We were very much active. What to do to make more women in the Academy of Sciences? Now we have maybe 9% it will be. But during also I was in some kind of a recommendation committee to select between a woman and man must be equally meritorically. You cannot just, okay, if it is equal, we were fighting for women, but it is not always the case. So it is not so easy. So what else, in my case, what I'm doing just to make some, I'm in commission for L'Oréal UNESCO committee. It is very nice initiative, again, to promote ladies and it is for master thesis, for PhD, and for habilitation. So a different category. They are receiving money. There are a lot of candidates, and also we try to select the best one. Very big competition. But what is the problem? That sometimes the ladies, these young scientists, they want to be best one, but making a little bit not good policy. They want to publish, not taking care about quality of paper, but amount of papers. So it's a little bit very big mistakes of young women. They want to have pieces, not always the high level papers. And after, if it is some evaluation, they will not like to see how many papers some woman has. What is the quality? So never publish in the predatory journals. So it is my critics. And you must be also critical. You must be self-confident. If you see some stupidity during conference, you must be brave to tell it. It is not true. It was a little bit maybe my success. I was growing with carbon nanotubes. It was, I have this just fortunate event that I met French, which was specialist for carbon nanotubes. I was electrochemist. And these carbon nanotubes, how to use them. So also interesting topic, it is also some point of your success. For example, my student now will make quantum dots, so and also Nobel Prize. So some interesting topics, it gives you some also maybe better start. And also, of course, bio, it is very much interesting. Everything what is connected with some, cancer and something like that, always it will be more interest. And you showed, Erika, about, this lily. In my case, I have also some lily. It is camellia, which is really, one person among 100 STEM women, which were selected. And even now she was receiving some honorary mention, so she was very proud. It is necessary, but she's self-confident, contrary to me. She's believing on herself. She wants to be professor in our university, and she will be. She's sure she wants to do everything to what is in her plan. It is very important to have very strong dream and just to realize it. I think it is necessary to help such kind of women. I am a little bit too old, but she is very good as some kind of, promoter for how to engage these young women just from the starting, as it was shown by Erika, from the very, very young age to older. But really it was fantastic presentation, and how Hungary is very much involved in all this cooperation with industry, very, very important. In our case, not so much. So thank you very much for your attention in this case.
Erika, you wanted to?
Yeah, thank you so much, Elzbieta, for your words. I'm completely agree with you. The most important things is believing ourselves. So, of course, I'm absolutely agree with you. I was not also really self-confident during my younger age. But now my feeling is that if we have a dream, if we believe ourselves, we could achieve it. So this is one of the most important things. And really, thank you for your sharing for your experiences during your life. I think it's really important to hear, and it could be also motivated to us. Thank you so much.
So thanks everyone for all these comments. I see some questions coming up in the Q&A session, but maybe let's move to a little bit towards the systemic solutions and questions, and maybe Verena, if you could launch some discussion on this. So what are the problems, and where are we losing these enthusiastic young girls who join science and technology?
Yes, I would like to share my screen with you, and you will have to wait for a moment until I am able to do this, but I think I can do this now. I think that you have
seen it before. Okay, now maybe
Let's see. I think you should see it now.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what you can see here is, I'm not sure if making people conscious of things is actually such a great help, because we're all climate conscious and there is still the climate crisis. And I really do not like anecdotal evidence when it comes to gender issues. I always try to have hard data. And this is a study from 2019. What you can see here is what is called the leaky pipeline, and I call it evaluation bias. Women are less likely to be employed as graduate students or postdocs when the PI is male. And over 70% of all labs in the world have a male PI. Women are half as likely to get the word excellent when they get a letter of recommendation. And they are 10 to 20% less likely to become an independent PI than men. And there are just numbers for the US before Trump. Startup funds for male PIs are over $500,000 US more than startup funds for female PIs. And it's no wonder that women submit fewer grants overall, fewer renewal or simultaneous grants, and they are less likely to have renewals funded than men. Because the system is skewed. Female last authors, these are usually the lab heads, yeah, are 6% less likely to have their manuscripts accepted if the reviewers are an all-male panel. So there is nepotism still at work. And women account for less than 25% of awardees for the most prominent awards in some of the STEM fields. And we had a discussion with Gosia in the chat about the Nobel Prize, and that's just one example. So what we do need to realize, and as much as I like what Erika has said about attracting young females, and as much as I agree that in a patriarchal system, you need to make girls more self-esteem. What we need to realize is more water does not make the pipeline less leaky. If we put more young researchers, female researchers into this pipeline, we still will have the leaks unless we do something about the leaks. And I think there are very concrete things that can be done all along this leaky pipeline thing, which is why I think it's really important to realize that. But if you look at things like, these are, again, the same data. In teaching evaluations, women receive significantly worse scores, regardless if they're evaluated by men or by women. A man is also 15% more likely to share data with a male colleague than with a female colleague. And I don't think that universities and grant agencies are closing this pipeline just as much as they should. There is a relatively recent study of 2020, which is called Turning Tutes into Letters for Women Faculty, a review and roadmap for equity in academia. And what they is a meta study kind of, yeah. What they showed is that when a teaching evaluation for a man is written, it is, and it's not by students, it's a teaching evaluation in a tenure case, yeah. The text is more focused on the qualification and on the course content. And when females are evaluated, it's more about how they look and what their personality is like. And women are very much less likely to be described with words such as brilliant and genius. We have a society in which brilliant and genius is focused on men. And even how they are addressed, students are more likely to refer to men as professor and to a woman as a teacher. And when the students were negotiating grades, they came relatively more aggressively when they wanted to negotiate grades with females than when they tried to negotiate their grade with a man. And they complained more often about evaluations. So what I'm trying to say here is this system is deeply skewed. And then what Laszlo said is we must take care that if we bring more females in so that we don't compromise excellence, there is this skewing is behind that, because what I think is we brought all these women in that we are now losing along the leaky pipeline, we would have actually much more excellence, because we are discouraging fantastic women by all what I have just said. And this is what we have to go against. And I think for that, I would totally agree on what you said, that the consciousness for that problem is very little. So that's my take on systems. Yeah. And I have a very nice example about the evaluation, the peer review by peers of using the Hubble telescope. There were studies. So if you want to use the Hubble telescope, then you make a proposal and it's evaluated. And I have a very nice case study on what changed in the gender proportion of how much time people got for the telescope, depending on how the review process was made. And to cut a long story short, only when the review process was completely anonymous did men and female have equal chances. As long as it was clear who it was, women got less viewing time on the Hubble, which is exactly what makes them less prolific scholars. So that there is a lot of systemic problems that we have. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Verena. And that leads us also, and when we discuss about institutional or kind of systemic problems and biases, that leads us to the need to reform research assessment, for example, anonymizing reviews as much as possible to avoid these biases. But yeah, if anyone has any comments on these or solutions, Laszlo, maybe?
Yes, I think that all these issues, what Verena mentioned, including what she started with, that it's ridiculous that it's the woman's role to take care of elderly people or things like that. So it's not their job simply. But to change this, it's a mentality change. So I think that we have the leaky pipeline and everything. The problem is with the mentality, and it's very, very hard to change. And even if we have a good system, and there are several things that we can improve the system with core principles and things like that, which might help. But in a short run, we should be able to change the mentality of the people, that these hidden biases should be avoided. And I think that we made a tremendous steps already. But I totally agree with Verena that we are very, very far from solving, or even to be close to solve that problem. But the most important issue, I think, is mentality change.
Dorota?
Okay, so also we thank you for this skewed system analysis, and I totally agree. And the hard data shows something, but there is also a million ways of various behaviors that we know are about misogyny, sometimes not even realized, mostly perhaps even not realized by various committees. But they do, those behaviors and attitudes, etc., they do occur and they linger. And we have not discussed also one important, I think, practically systemic issue, that is that work in academia now is becoming more and more precarious, where we as especially young people, especially young people, postdocs, are being employed on this kind of closed time basis. They always, most, especially in sciences, as far as I understand it, they have to bring the money with them to the university, to the institution in the form of grants. they migrate, they have to change places, they have to chase their employment in so many ways that it's extremely discouraging for also for women of a certain age, yeah, but also for any kind of idea of settling down, yeah, of having a home. And I don't even mean necessarily with children, but also with children, yeah? Because the form of employment offered now more increasingly is precarious. Simply, the labs cease to exist, are being closed, programs are being closed, the humanities are going down, etc. And we can have all this talent at the early career, for example, PhD students. And sometimes I think, what can we offer to them? You know, how can we encourage them if they know that they will not, there is so little chance for them to be employed. And then the skewed system and the evaluation bias is even more painful for women in this kind of very tight resources situation. Yeah, thank you.
Elzbieta?
So maybe just prolonging a little bit. If you compare what is the gross domestic product in Poland, it is 1.5 together with European funds. So without it will be 0.5%. The lowest one probably in all Europe. So really this financial support is really very crucial. If I will compare, I have one student which is paid from European grant, which has 3 times more money than normal PhD student. Okay, because there are such rules, you cannot do anything. But really this stipend, if someone must survive in Poznan, pay accommodation, pay food and so on, of course, sometimes you cannot go for some private accommodation, you must be in dormitory. So it is very, very poor life. There was shown some map about percentage, how many people are remaining just in science, academy, how little bit in Germany. Young generation, generally, they want to go to industry. They want to earn money quite often. In their imagination is money are more important than science, because after they are too old to find some job. Maybe there is also such kind of criteria. They don't want to make science to be in academia because definitively better paid and just okay work different type. You must love science to be really scientist. So it's also this problem. Additionally, we will go to the demographic decline. So maybe situation will be even slightly worse. I don't know if we can predict something. But these finances is really very, very important. They are trying to apply for grants. Sometimes they are receiving 10% is only success if it is good, but sometimes even less. And especially for these ERC grants, very, very difficult, very, very difficult to reach it. Okay, for the moment, maybe I will stop.
Thank you, Elzbieta. You were also starting to answer some questions. I mean, to reflect, because Alice put in the chat that she was interested to see the regional differences within Europe in the proportion of women in science. And there was a question what we thought about that. And if I may reflect on it, because I have thought over it several times. So why is Hungary sticking out? I don't have the answer. But I have a theory. So one thing why maybe in other Eastern European countries, maybe there is a higher proportion, is that academia is not a well-paid job. So it's not so much attractive for men. That means that more women can indeed succeed and survive and choose the path and stay at universities. Like you mentioned that in Germany, they go towards industry. And the difference, I'm not 100% sure that's the reason and the major difference between the other countries from Eastern Europe and Hungary. But in Hungary and also in the Czech Republic, we have extremely long maternity leaves. So up to 3 years, you can stay at home with a child, although the third year is really not well paid. And maybe that can be one of the reasons, maybe, or maybe competitiveness. So I don't know. I mean, as it was mentioned by Dorota, the limited outcomes, limited funding, and the high competition within the academic sector. I think it's present maybe in all countries, but maybe it's stronger in countries with highly ambitious individuals. I'm not sure if that's the difference, but if anyone has any reflections on these questions, Verena?
Now, one of the things that we see in Austria is that childcare is very different in the different provinces. And the better the childcare, the more female scientists and engineers do you get. Yeah. So it has nothing to do with academia as such. It's a systemic question of how society is organized. And the other thing that I think is rather important in this way, in what you say here, is the Austrian, the Vienna University, the biggest university, it's as big as all other universities together. Yeah? So it's the university. Their faculty of law has a huge proportion of female professors, much more than men. Why is that the case? Because men studying law become very successful lawyers, or they work as highly paid, relatively high ranking officials in ministries or so. And the university professorships are not very well paid in comparison to what you can earn in a law practice. And that is a reason why there's an overload of women there. Now, in medicine, this is the case in some areas, like pediatrics, but in surgery, there is a lot of male professors. Why? Because the male professors can actually perform private surgery and have as much income as somebody who has a private practice as a surgeon. So it's a very lucrative arrangement. And what you can see throughout history, I've never been a women's historian, but environmental history has a lot to do also with gender relations, is as soon as a job is less well paid, a lot more females get into this job. And that is still the case as you can see in the faculties of law and medicine at our university in Austria. Thank you.
Any further thoughts or comments or best practice examples, maybe? I mean, so childcare, that was really thought-provoking what you mentioned. So that could be also reason. The available facilities for childcare can be a determining factor, but that's a systemic one, nothing to do with academia, as you mentioned, or not. Well,
I think this is one thing where universities could actually take some money in their hands and open up a childcare facility with sensible times for female researchers. And they're reluctant to do that because it costs. Yeah, but that would be a really effective way for any research institution to attract excellence in both genders, because also fathers have the right to see their children and have a good career in a lab science. So I think that this is something where universities do have a possibility.
Yes, thank you very much. Dorota?
Yeah, just one word to this. Yeah, indeed. First of all, like in Poland, there have been measures introduced to, let's say, force, maybe this is not a good word, force men to share the maternity leave. So the leave got extended, but it can be halved so that both parents can equally share, more or less equally. I don't know the details very well, but more or less, which is one thing. Plus, I've often thought, why would not the university open childcare? I saw such like creches or kindergartens at the universities in, for example, the UK in the past. And this would be very good because also, among others, because sometimes some breaks, like semester breaks, do not coincide with school breaks, which are also kindergarten breaks and so on. So we face the situation when your child that should be under care, has time off, and sometimes both parents have to work at that time because the classes, or if they're employed at academia, we cannot take leaves. As academicians, we cannot take leaves when we want to. We are very much time bound. And when the winter holidays, whatever school holidays, do not coincide with our holidays, we have to do things. We have to invent. We have to be very resourceful in terms of like organizing childcare. In my case, it has to be a therapeutic care, and there's a lot of effort in this. So for many people, definitely. One thing that my university introduced, which I think is extremely valuable, it's such a small change. We don't start classes at 8. We start classes at 8:30. And this is a huge difference because schools start at 8 in Poland. So this was very stressful for any parents who had to get the kids to school. In the city, especially because in the city there are no like bus delivery systems. It's on the parents. So you really had to either leave the child half an hour before to make it for the 8 o'clock class at school, or be late for the class, etc. So it's a huge relief. I mean, sometimes very small, as if very small customization to a given like place at a given institution makes a huge difference. Sometimes big systemic changes are necessary, but sometimes tiny, as if fine tuning will also work very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In the chat, there was a kind of exchange between Gosha and Verena about issues. I don't know if Gosha, you would like to somehow join the discussion, or if it was a live discussion. So or you would like me to read maybe parts of your comments. So she just confirmed that she's a chemical engineer and she was in a similar situation, taking care of parents, of elderly parents and family members for years, and because that was a kind of a social expectation, and she did not receive real recognition for this, and also so she just confirmed some of the negative aspects of the situation of women in science and industry and technology that we have just discussed. I don't see Gosha unmuting herself, so I think then if there are no other comments in the chat or from members of the panel, then maybe I would try to wrap up the discussion, which is very difficult because, as mentioned before, and by several of you, and I think it's quite clear that this is a very complex topic and very hard to change anything, and hard to systemic changes are also not depending on us. What we all see that there are some issues with household sharing, household and caring duties that was mentioned several times, which for sure represent barriers in the academic career path for women. So equal shares or more equal share of these duties would probably lead to equity. And the leaky pipeline, I don't want to discuss it too much. I just prepared it also. And I think that we all agreed that it's very nice to encourage women, girls to go into this path. But if we lose all of them, it's something that is finally not so nice, because many of them will be feeling it as a loss, and there it's a huge loss for the society, all these talented, excellent women that we are losing through this Likie pipeline, and to which the society invested a lot, and they also invested a lot of their time and energy in learning something that they will finally not use. So it's important to have role models and to encourage them, but it's as much important to fix the leaky pipeline. And of course, there is the other kind of measures that we often hear. It's to try to help those who are close to the glass ceiling to break it. But that's also, I think, not the biggest issue. We should check points. Maybe I just forgot to put the circle here. Yeah, we should stop at each place. We should try to decrease the loss, and that would require, of course, all kind of mentoring, advocacy initiatives, and institutional measures that we were not really well placed to discuss maybe much more in detail on this occasion. So as mentioned by several of you, data are important, evidence-based decisions are needed for all kind of discussions about what are hindering women at institutional or national level. And it's very important to make the gender equality plans function. So we are glad that due to the European Union's policy, at least most research institutes and universities now have their gender equality plans, but they should also allocate funding for them. So it should not be just a tick box exercise, but they should really invest into working towards gender equality with small measures that were measured by Dorota, that were mentioned by Dorota. Just simple things like changing the starting time for lectures, how helpful it can be. This can be all measured with data, surveys, questionnaires. There are some which do not even cost money, but there should be plans and all kind of supporting actions. And it's very important not only for research performing organizations, but also for research funding organizations, as we mentioned, that bias should be somehow tried to avoid. And finally, the last thing I agree with Laszlo. I think we also had another mail from a participant from Poland, because it was Przemysław. So from the name, I think, but we should have these discussions not only among women, like usually we do, unfortunately, but we should understand each other and convince men that without women in their research groups, without those talents, science is not the same, and academia is not the same nice place that it should be. So I would like to thank everyone for your participation on this event, and I hope that we will work towards a better academia in the future. So thanks everyone for participating.
Thank you very much for invitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katalin, for organizing and for this incredible summary.
I think we have still a lot to discuss. For example, for me, what is the psychology, what is in the brain of the young people, how they are different, how there are cases of suicides, why the people are going with knife to school to kill someone. There are many, many problems which could be discussed. And what is happening in Austria last time? Horrible.
Yes.
So it is really what happens simply in the brain of young people also. Yes, I think psychological help very, very, very much useful. I think could be.
Yeah. So thanks everyone, and then
thank you so much.
And I hope we can continue later discussions on these topics.
Empowered, truly empowering. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorota.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.